the community garden, its history and mission.
Okay. So this is New Roots Community Farm. This is the 4th growing season. The farm started in 2012 between a license agreement between the Department of Transportation for New York City and the International Rescue Committee where I work. There used to be sort of industrial buildings on site, an elevator factory, a parking garage, a car wash, a hardware store. Some of them were in disuse or disrepair. And so the city was planning on building a bridge to connect the Grand Concourse area of the Bronx over to 3rd Avenue area of the Bronx, but they lost the funding for that project. So what was able to happen was that we were able to take the garden on as a community resource and activity, and from 2012 onward we have just been building out the site. So when we got here there was really nothing. It was sort of like a very dry, clean landscape, but with not any organic material to actually grow things. So there's just been a lot of work since that time to build community garden beds, plant flower areas, and work with the community to design the site for the use of everybody involved.
What was the mission, sort of? I know that you work for IRC.
Yeah. So the International Rescue Committee is an organization that works in 40 countries around the world and 26 U.S. cities. In the U.S., in the U.S., we predominantly function as a refugee resettlement organization, and so we're working with refugees that are arriving to the United States to support them with housing, their first employment, seeking public benefits, and then also looking at how food and nutrition plays into their overall health and ability to succeed here. And so I run our food and nutrition programming, and part of that is looking at urban agriculture and the role that plays in providing fresh food for our clients, but then also in the community where the garden is located.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the culture of the garden and how that culture and the individuals here have sort of influenced the community itself, so those that live within this community?
Yeah. I mean, I think right when it sort of became obvious that this site was doing something beyond just being a construction site, that neighborhood and community members really made their voices heard, that they wanted to be involved, that they had skills and in some cases time, and definitely able hands to help out. So right away it was like very much a community engagement project, and so there was I remember somebody told me that one of the first times I opened the gate there was like a rock in a bag with like a note in it thrown into the garden that was just like, "Are you building a garden? Can I help?"
Oh, wow.
So that was sort of how it started. Was before there was any like outreach or encouragement for people to get involved, there was already people asking for ways to get involved. The same with Cardinal Hayes High School, which is across the street. Their environmental club started sort of through their work of wanting to get involved with this garden. And so the students that started their freshman year had the buildings on site, and by the time they graduated they had the garden here. So they sort of were part of that transition to watch the community develop like that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and so I think it's true of any neighborhood in New York, but obviously the Bronx is a very diverse borough, and so there's people here from all over the world, lots of different language and cultural backgrounds, and people who have strong agricultural past. So whether it might not be themselves, but maybe their grandparents or their parents that farmed or gardened, or just have a closer connection to food through more of like a local food system. So I think it's something that a lot of people have skills or passion for, and then this is sort of giving them the opportunity to learn new things and to work alongside their neighbors and learn from each other.
How does it impact?
Constantly, when we're working here or, tending to the garden, people on the outside are walking past, and they're stopping and they say, "Wow, how can I be part of this?" And they're asking, and I just refer them, or if I'm here by somebody else, they ask, we just refer them to the information that's on the board at the front gate there. But a lot of people are excited about it in the community because they pass by on a regular, and then they say they want to become part of it. People actually come in, and that's, it's open during the week for a certain amount of hours.
Initially, this garden was not necessarily built, from my understanding, for the community. It was not say, oh wow, this is a beautiful place for garden for the community, and we're gonna just have this for the community. It was not the intention. The intention was to take this land, build a garden for refugees from out of the country, food, to have experiences, to exchange, and to learn about the American environment, the American culture. And that's because the IRC, International Rescue Community, is the organization that has leased this land from the city. So that was the intention of the land. And then as the community started to see this environment being nurtured, we was like, what's going on in there? Nosy people, what's going on in there? And then from there, I could talk about my own experience. When I first saw this happening, I said, what are those people doing in here? And I was just nosy. And then I found out they were building a garden. And then I found out that this was for refugees from other countries. And I said, well, I'm a refugee right here in the Bronx. I'm a refugee. I want a piece of this environment. I volunteered. And I said, they said, how could you be a part of it? Oh, well, if you volunteer, then maybe you can get a spot. Done deal. I'm going to volunteer, and I end up getting a spot here. And I think just like myself, the other community members started to feel the same way. They started to say, wow, I need that. I want to be a part of it. I want to grow food. This will be nice. And that's how the community became involved, because we share this space with refugees from all over the world. But it has seemed that the community has had such a strong need and want for it that there are more community members here than refugee members, because there has been such an overpouring of concern and want to be a part of this this little oasis in the South Bronx.
So you had mentioned how there's a wide variety of cultures here that are that the community garden represents. So how is it that the community garden sort of allows that to flourish, and what's the interaction between these different diverse cultures?
Well, one of my favorite parts about being involved in this work is actually that a lot of the activities at the garden and food in general is something that doesn't need all of this technical discussion around. It's very easy to bring people together around food because we all eat, we all enjoy it, and so it's the type of thing where it's food and growing food starts from a very coordinated space, or a space where we all share. So regardless of languages that we speak or countries of origin or whatever that we might have not in common, we have this in common. And so from there it's sort of really easy to build a lot of other community around the community of food. So I think that that's true both in the sense of actually planting out. So I run a job training program as part of our work through the International Rescue Committee, and even though we have maybe 3 or 4 different language groups that work with us, if we're just showing somebody how to do something and then watching to make sure that the task is understood, there doesn't have to be that much verbal communication. And we have sort of this still this great sense of teamwork and accomplishment and community, even though we maybe haven't exchanged more than 15 or 20 words during the day that we both are sure we understand. There's still this sort of awareness that we're sharing in something, that we're exchanging skills, that we're respecting each other, work ethic, and all of those things. And so I think that that's pretty amazing, and that's why I love teaching out here versus teaching in a classroom. So we also run our English classes out here. Again, it sort of takes people out of the space that is a blackboard and sitting in a chair, and gets people thinking and touching and feeling, and again, sitting with somebody that might be a different language group, but then being able to share a feeling, so based on a smell, or you were talking about the birds being in the garden or things like that. And I also think that we have a lot to learn from each other, and I definitely see the gardeners walking around and checking each other's beds out, and so there's always new and different ways of doing things. And so I think that that's a really nice component of this too, is that even if somebody's gardened for a long time, or if they've never gardened before, they sort of have the resources of the community at their fingertips.
Different culture. Well, that's an excellent question because I know one of the things here is that this garden has a lot of people from different cultures. You know, there's sisters from Guyana, there's sisters from Trinidad, and what we do is, you know, when we have meetings, your cultural experiences come out. You know, like one of the sisters, she brought it, then she started talking about the herbs that she used and the herbs from her culture, and I was like, what is that? And so I learned from her, learned how to make, you know, how to, you know, she gave me the recipe, you know, so. And then even when, you know, we just have our own personal frustrations. You know, you might have a challenge, and your challenge might be something that might be more privy to your cultural experience and not my cultural experience, you know? So I find that having friends from different cultural backgrounds, you get to know what they go through from that point of view. It's just like, it's just part of being people, just being ourselves, and you don't even really see it, you know, unless you're very conscious of that. It's just people being themselves, and who being yourself, your cultural experience is going to come out, you know, and it's very, very embracive. We have a friend here from Jamaica, a gardener from Jamaica, and he talks so fast with his heavy accent, and he said, what did you say? You got to slow down. And then he says, then he talks with the English accent, and then you say, okay, now, but when he's really happy and when he's in his own element, he talks with a heavy, strong Jamaican accent, and you don't understand nothing that he says, you know. So it's like you get to see people who they really are, no judgment, just like a family, and it's a wonderful experience. You know, most urban people, they don't even appreciate the greenery. They're just like, oh, what are they doing?
Or maybe it's under the lack of connection between us and Earth, right? That connection.
Definitely.
And living in an urban space, you don't always get to connect with the Earth. And so this community garden is able to kind of build that relationship, connect us back to the Earth.
And I think that everybody needs that connection, but some people are more aware of it than others. You know, and it might even be that some people might need it like they need food. You know, it's like it's such an integral need in them, and then when they get here, they say, "Oh man, I feel good when I come here. I don't even know why I feel good." You know, and then other people might come in here and they just don't understand. They just, you know, like I have a friend. They say, "Oh, this is a complete waste of time. They should have built a building where people can live," and you know, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, "How did you not appreciate what has been built here?" He said, "Because people need some place to live, and they should have built a building here." But from his point of view, that was what's his priorities. Maybe because he needs a place to live, and he knows the value of that. You know, but I know the value of being connected to the earth and being able to touch the soil, because it brings joy and it feeds something in me that I need. You know. So, getting back to your original question about the cultural experiences, that's how I see how the culture plays out here. You know, it's all different. And then they, you know, being a part of the IRC, you know, IRC, they have people coming in from, you know, some outside of the country who is very, very new to this, even this American culture. Because even within one culture, there's the other culture, you know, but the bigger culture, the American culture, you know, there are people who are just learning how to move in this environment, this American culture, and some of them, they plant their plants from their culture, and they might even plant the same plant, and they call it a different name. And then I learned, I said, oh wow, you know, I'm familiar with this, but I never knew it was called that. You know, so that's how the culture, I find it has impacted me in this.
I love how this wants to autocorrect instead of soil, soul. It wants me to keep saying soul. I'm asking Marty if she wants to wheelbarrow some soul into my garden.
It's your
plot.
garden, isn't that so right?
Yes! It's exactly right.
Some soul.